Welcome back to Division 2. There we go. Third game of the day. It's going to be London United versus Rate Gaming. What do you think about this? I'll send you a curveball. What do you think about this
Okay.
game before I jump in further?
So the first time these two teams met, I think this is our first match of the day where the team higher in the standings didn't actually win out in the first round robin. So coming into this, London United, a little bit lower seeded, currently seventh, and then Rate Gaming, they're on that cusp of potentially getting into the top six. They were one game behind that third place tie between four teams. But the first time these two teams played each other, London United came out on top and they took down Rate Gaming. I think this is really interesting because they've both got very carry-centric top laners in Icy Gale and Arcane Teddy. And my thoughts go back when we were watching, when I was watching rather, these two players in the Winter Showdown across in the UK. One of the tournaments ran over the winter, and consistently it was Icy Gale who was getting the better of Arcane Teddy. But throughout the duration, throughout the growth of this split, Arcane Teddy has really evolved himself as well, leveled up into a new set of carry top laner, and has been able to handle himself quite well. But I think that when we saw them last time, and obviously London coming away with the win, it was quite nice to see that throwback to, okay, Icy Gale is a very good carry top laner and can best Arcane Teddy.
I like this. This is what I wanted to talk about this match, and you just set it up. The idea as we're going into the champion select, mostly it's going to be about securing the top lane advantage. We usually see that, okay, I want to pick the top laner as late as possible, so the other team is forced to pick it. But if you're on right side, obviously you want to secure that specifically because you have these sort of champions. They can make do or they can play weak side. We've seen that before. You can play weak side, you can play for the team. And even though you're a massive good top laner, you can just play weak side and then allow your bot lane to carry and just farm, not die. That's something that we top laners are accustomed to. Okay, I'm not going to play to win the lane, I'm going to play to win the game. And I like to see
Ah,
where
yes.
these two teams are going to approach that subject and what sort of carries are we going to get. Obviously, we're seeing the Arya. I'm really thankful. Really, I'm being honest. I'm really thankful that we get the APR and not the attack speed because it's so secure as well. So that is another pick that we should be looking into the mid lane because it's so safe to pick unless Silas is available.
Exactly. Well, yes, unless Silas is available, and we have seen a couple picks of Silas at least in the season. Obviously, one today alone. So maybe that's something to throw out. And I know that this is also something that can be played by the top laners as well to hop back into that. But we have seen a fairly, I'll call it weird, aversion to ADCs thus far today at the very least, because just
Mm,
last game we saw Kaiser Ezreal in a game where Aphelios and Zeri weren't
Steady.
banned.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see if that develops and if that continues into this next game, the third one. We broach the halfway point for the day, but this could be. We'll have to see because obviously this is a very different style of game that we're expecting. The Rengar ban is something that I'm 90% sure has been in every single game up
Yes.
against London United and will remain to be that way.
Which is sad. I gotta say, if you put so much effort on these weird champions, and if you make them happen, you gotta let them play. Just like when we look into Riddle in the first division for MC in Italy, you gotta let him play at least for once. You need to see how good he is, and if it's constantly banned, it means that he's not able to practice. So is he even good as a team with
Oof.
that specific pick? You have to think about that. Okay,
Mhm.
on the other side, Twisted Fight, the usual, the Jinx. So Aphelios is still available, and so is the Zeri. Will we get another? Okay, Zeri, be gone. There you go. So Aphelios is the only one on the blue side. Do you ban it? Do you keep it and first pick it? Are you going to give away the Ekuru?
Or the Gwen as well, something that still exists. I think that's something incredibly nuanced about playing up against London United is you have to throw a random ban at Rengar and you don't get that typical like high priority S tier ban ratio. But I think this is something that Rate do incredibly well. I think that taking Jin sets up beautifully for what we know this composition of players to be, which is a topside oriented team. Jin is now filling this role as an ADC where you leave him on his own to farm up instead of it be that Ezreal, but he can still be a very large damage presence during the late stage of the game. He also sets up a little bit better than Ezreal as well, just because of the amount of long range CC that he has. So putting low fire on Jin is something that I know Rate have done a few times previously, and a lot of teams are starting to pick up on his supportive capabilities.
Okay, Dan talks about this pick a lot of times. The Volibear in the jungle, one of the best, really hard to counter away. You have the Shin Zhao on the other side. You have other picks to play versus the Volibear, but it's hard, especially if you want to play for the bot side. And this is exactly what's going to happen because we have the failures being picked for Zed at this point. Do you pair it now with some sort of support afterwards on the third pick from the red side, or do you look into something else to protect it? On the other side, I think right are a little bit forced to pick the jungler now, and especially the support, unless you want to pick something spicy for the mid lane, something that you don't want to see Ben. Obviously, it's not this one, because you want to secure that bot side as well.
Yeah, I think that this is a fairly actually strange set of support picks that we could end up seeing because Rate normally what you could see with an Aphelios is a Lulu. That's a very standard pairing, and in this position, Rate could very well be in a spot to try and take away the support pick that would pair nicely with London United. But Jin Lulu is it's a horrible lane. It's really not nice to play. So London, you kind of get a 3 pass here. What Rate have done? They have doubled down on the top side priority and they have locked in Fiora early. Arcane Teddy, one of his best champions, something he will pull out at a moment's notice, and blind picks it in the top lane.
This is massive courage coming in from right. You throw the challenge, and with a lot of time to think about that specific challenge. And I think the challenge has been answered with the Malphite, which seems like it's going to be for the top side unless we get something different from Yoshi. I don't know. How do you feel about this matchup?
I think the Malphite in the top lane versus Fiora specifically is actually one of the. It's still pretty hard for the Fiora to kill a Malphite, but you do have true damage. And obviously Malphite that stacks armor, that stacks health, is going to feel the repercussions of getting true damaged quite significantly. So it's still, whenever you take a Fiora, I honestly would have rather seen, just for example, and not specifically this, but an Aurelia archetype of the slab. Just go, okay, you've gone duelist, I'll go duelist. Let's see who comes out on top. Things like Fiora Renekton, Fiora versus Renekton, Fiora versus Jax, something along those lines would have been nice to see, but London New now, obviously they can pivot where their composition is going to be played around. When you pick an Aphelios, you can set up for a really strong hyper carry during the late stages of the game, and with no support bans coming out from Rate in this second pit phase, they can take something like the Braum, the Nautilus, or a Lulu style of pick, Zillion potentially as well, just to go down onto that bot and pair up with KZ on this Aphelios. And when you have a Malphite, you know that you don't really have to pay it that much attention. What you can do is just focus all of your efforts down onto this bot lane and make Lo-Fi's life a bit more miserable.
Midline champion pool was completely demolished for probably all players right now. The usual picks are removed. The Salas is removed as well, which means you can pick the Yadi away and be secure. That's why they're going to save it. Save the pick from Yoshi for the last. It's going to be the Rakan paired up with the Aphelios. On the other side, obviously, you want the hard engage, and Nautilus is going to be the answer. Now you have to blind pick it away. Okay, we saw an Anivia before. Apparently, the bird is gaining some sort of airspace as she flying into the Summoner's Rift in Division 2. Now, last pick for mid lane. You get the counter pick if you wish, or we can get another Corki.
Yeah, wow. We are back in 12.1, 12.2 with these mid lane picks of Corki at the very least. I mean, there's no reason not to. Champion still scales incredibly well. You've still got a load of damage come the late game, and also you have a fairly easy way to get out of the Anivia wall plus ult combo. You can't particularly get stunned that easily when you've got Valkyrie ready and available. I'm a lot less inclined to like this Anivia pick as I was the first one, but still it has its priority and has its value when trying to take down the tanks, because I think that in terms of front to back damage, was something that Rake were always going to struggle with, and short of building into a Cassiopeia, for example, there wasn't really going to be any good way of getting through this Icy Gale Noided front line, because your Fiora is going to be going into the back line. Jin is one of the worst tank killers that exists as an AD carry, so they've got to go for this sort of late game scaling bird in the mid lane who can build a Liandry's, potentially go for that Shadow Flame as well to really chew through these top side tanks.
And you were talking about this before we went into Champion Select, the idea that the top line is going to be favorable for the junglers. They're going to take more notice on that. The Fiora, if she runs with the match, if she gets something like the Hullbreaker, it's a possibility. We've seen Akali with Hullbreaker, so please don't judge me. Judge Hullbreaker, not me. But the idea is Fiora running away with this match, split pushing, It is Fiora. She likes to duel, so even if it's a 2v1, she likes it. She's called a duelist for some reason. So if she's capable of getting this matchup ahead in terms of the top side, this could be a fairly easy one. But if you shut it down, if the Malphite gets ahead, not only is favorable not only to stop the Fiora if you get some sort of a lead, but also to stop the enemy team as a whole because he can play not only on the sideline, but he can play for the team fights. This is exactly what he wants to do at the end.
Exactly. It's a 5v5 composition that London have drafted for themselves. They've got really good backline access. They've got really good backline themselves in this Corki Aphelios, and they can easily deal with pretty much whatever it is that they're going to be thrown against. When you've got the likes of a Volibear plus a Malphite on your top side to be the tanks, it means that this Corki and Aphelios in the backline, they're going to be sitting pretty much regardless. I think that there's a lot more onus and burden of execution on rate right now when you've locked this Fiora in to execute the split push very well, very wisely. Because if you can't, the 5v5 is going to look incredibly difficult. The way an Anivia is going to be played in this composition is also something that is still fairly scary. She hates being dove upon, loves having short range champions to try and deal with. But Volibear plus Malphite, they're going to be able to, with the Rakan, very nicely take this Akali, take this Anivia, excuse me, down to the dirt.
Really well done from Icy Gale getting that vision. They are aware that it's massive invasion coming in, and obviously you have the Nautilus, you have the Anivia, the Xin Zhao can follow it up, and even Jin with a double if he needs to level it up at first level. So this is a massive invading team. Meanwhile, instantly London United realizing this gets the vision of the red buff from the enemy, gets some deep vision as well for them. Look at the entire jungle war that they saw them leave. So it is noted that it's safe to go into his own jungle. The sweeper will be available in just a few seconds, but have vision from him right now.
And something to touch on here, whilst we've got a little bit of time through the early stages, is the tier start for Yoichi. We talked about, at least in game number 1, potentially greedy openings. Starting tier on pretty much anybody can be deemed as fairly greedy, kind of to allow for better late game scaling. But particularly versus the Anivia, I quite like it. But we may have to hold it because there's some weird stuff going on in that top lane.
It is Icy Gale trying to be a nuisance because he brought in the Comet, so you know he's going to deal some damage. He brought in as well the Sustain, and the Corruption Potion allows you to be a nuisance as well. So you want to stop it. That's a beautiful hook versus Xed. The follow flash and the auto attack cannot be flashed away. This is an early first blood for Wraith.
What is it with bot lanes and finding 2v2 kills? There's been one in, I think, every single game thus far. And it's this time around Wraith coming out on top. Peep able to find the angle to take down KZ, and with the boots opening for the Jhin as well. You're typically not that fussed about taking early game fights. You honestly want to sit back and get a couple physical damage items in your inventory before you start trying taking these skirmishes, but the early game of Nautilus, simply too much at this point, and with both of our junglers meeting on the bot side in about a minute's time, there's a very real possibility we see a repeat with KZ having no summoner spells. Born this way, you can see he's tantalized, he's anxious and ready with the wave pushing in. He wants to take down KZ once again because they've got to push this wave under the turret. Lowfire and Peep are in such a good position right now to just hold the wave out of their turret range, and by cheating out on his Raptors, he's actually ahead of Noided on the path, and may well be able to find an access point to this lane earlier than they'd anticipate.
Worst case scenario, SZ is going to be focused again. The Grand Entrance is going to save him, but Rakan cannot be saved. He's forced to flash away. The last dance was available. He's not going to use it. Venus is so low, but look at the state of the wave. This is such a good wave state for Wraith. They need to secure this one. They need to keep the freeze going on. And Peep with boots, it is an easy engage for them.
Now, there's a really interesting little micro for Lowfire here, and it's how well can he CS without having to use Q. It turns out it's probably not going to matter, since Noided comes on down and he's going to break this freeze, force it under the turret. They're still looking for a fight. Oh, Peep is dead.
Peep is dead. There you go. It's Noided taking the kill. They went too close to the sun.
Kill goes over to the Volibear, and somehow Wraith, they're still trying to hold this freeze. but they get a kill given back over. So giving Noided some early agency in this game could potentially spell a little bit of disaster for Rate. They overstep, get a little too greedy. I respect the notion that they're trying to hold the wave out, but at a certain point you just have to admit, okay, well, we can't go for this now. And quite wisely there, Divinus pulls the trigger, uses the Grand Entrance, and punishes the overextension of the Rate support. On this top side, as you may have anticipated, it is Arcane Teddy running the laning phase for the time being, and I don't think that's going to turn around at pretty much any point in this game.
Arcane Teddy just comfortable on the top side. No jungler coming in to disrupt the bees that they brought in on themselves. Born this way wants to struggle with that. He wants to butt in. Meanwhile, it is Noided already with boots. So one jungler has no items. The other one already has steel caps. And if this turns into a battle, I believe Volibear will have some sort of lead. Level 6, I believe it's still a little bit far from these top laners. But the first one to get it will probably help on these fights if the junglers are coming in. They have to go back. They have to get that farm. And meanwhile, it is a Cloud Drake again, the first one for this game. So we might even get an X-Tech Dragon. That would be cool to get not only the gates, but also that buff.
Yeah, that Hextech Soul, my oh my. Certainly something to be fearful of. Now, with our top laners here, our eyes focused largely on this. You can see that Arcane Teddy taking a little bit of harass from those seismic shards, taking Scorch, plus I presume Mana Flow Band in the rune choices there gives Icy Gale a little bit of fighting power back over. But on the mid lane, would appear that we've had a gank and a kill going down. Looks
Those
like yeah, it looks like Yoichi has gone a little bit down south here, and now they're looking to dive Icy Gale top lane.
Grand challenge has been popped. Arcane Teddy is not the one being the tanker. Board this way solo. Icy Gale as well. Arcane Teddy is not able to follow that one through because he leveled up. So Unstoppable Force is available. Parry is also available. That could be a good one. Xin Zhao looking at his target, running away. You have to let him go. You were so low. I know you fancy it, but you can't follow through as Arcane Teddy is going to spot the mountain recalling, and the teleport is available. So no harm, no fall. And we have a replay from the first blood to understand what happened.
Yeah, that kill, I believe, in the mid lane, one to maybe showcase for you all. But even so, the classic. Here we go. Now, finally, there we go with the replay. It is just. I thought that it'd be Peep flashing into Hex flashing into the lane. Turned out it's not. And Toppy, I think he just hit 6 or a good stun. That's it. And then able to find the hook. Flash a little bit late. Toppy goes over the wall with his own flash, and quite simply put, easily done. Now there's a gank bot lane.
There's 3v2. Peep, even with boots, is getting fairly low, and that's a massive bite. Took away his entire back as he curtain calls, trying to look for Zed. 2 shots failing, anointed, looking for the 4th one for himself, being the tank that he needs to be. Those boots are really good for these sort of situations, but also we debated the fact that the jungler, Noided, has boots already as well. So movement speed alongside with the bite is more than enough. But look at this. This could be another turn on Icy Gale. Unstoppable Force is available, so he might just go away as Icy Gale is going to get engaged, get the knock up on Xin Zhao, get the movement speed as well, and wave him goodbye.
It may have looked like this gank didn't really accomplish a whole lot, but now that Icy Gale has no ulti, it does open up Arcane Teddy to potentially find a solo kill for the next minute and a half whilst that ultimate isn't available. Given the poke, though, from Icy Gale, it may just be enough to dissuade Arcane Teddy from ever going for this, and you can see the Q-Max plus these seismic shards really are starting to stack up, cause some issues, even though you've got Doran's shield for that little bit of extra health. This is now a gank angle.
Another grand challenge being popped up. Icy Gale, one more
Perfect.
vital.
Really good.
It's more than enough. And now they have the wave in their favor, although they want to just push it away. Arcane Teddy doesn't have the teleport, so he's going to lose all this experience. And meanwhile, another fish.
And and they catch it once again. I think that's just Lo-Fire roaming up, using the Deadly Flourish and setting up nicely. It's a little awkward for Yoichi in this mid lane because as soon as there's a smattering of Anivia damage, you are then ready to get Deadly Flourished and get taken out if there's a hook to follow. So it can be a pretty easy to execute gank angle for Rate, and it looks like this is the second time round now that they've been able to capitalize on it. This is the recapitalization of the top lane play where like I said, they've already burned the ulti. They've already burned the flash. It takes them 3 efforts on the top side Arsharon, but they finally get the kill. And we know that Rate...
Oof.
Oh, there we go. Okay, that was what happened in the mid lane. It wasn't even as cool as I made it sound. It was just Rate Peep flashing over a wall.
It's those 10 seconds of CC where you're like, can I play the game? No?
Please.
Am I disconnected? Okay, guys, be right back.
Oh yeah, quick little trip to the grey screen whilst I fix my internet. No worries.
Where you're thinking, okay, wait, is this a free game or do I have to pay premium to get colors? I don't know.
That's a good one. I haven't heard that before. I like that.
I say that a lot of times to some streamers that I'm playing with just to tease them as I play Teemo. Yeah, I'm a bad person, I know. I see Geldo getting the Iron Spike. I don't know if you know about this, but you can pop the vitals without items, so it's so easy to use the Grand Challenge, especially versus someone so tanky. He's building armor, but it's true damage.
Yeah, and like I say, right, there's an idea that Great Malphite can maybe weather this Fiora Storm a little bit better than other top laners, but at the same point, Fiora deals true damage, and all the armor in the world doesn't save you from that necessarily. And constantly using the parry and forcing the ulti now once again. Icy Gale now for the next minute or so whilst that flash ticks on up, potentially in a bit of trouble, but looking at the position of the junglers, he should be fairly safe, fairly sound for the time being, because we've also got a Drake spawning in about 40 seconds and a little bit of a pause to see us through.
This is a good time to talk about that specific dragon. We have access to, it's going to be the X-Tech, just as we talk about. It's not the Soul, but it's still an X-Tech, a point for them, at least to get that ability haste and additional attack speeds. And the way they're positioning themselves, if you look into Raid, the way they have control of the jungle right now, they don't have access to the T1, but they do have access to the enemy jungle. And you see Toppy alongside with Born this way, trying to go as a unit to get deeper vision and to clear the enemy vision. Meanwhile, on the bot side, we do have Divinas with 1 control ward, so this could be some sort of fighting, a way to fight off that vision, but they have to go as a unit and they have to push the bot lane. So we're talking about 37 seconds. How do you feel the state of the game? And who's going to fight for it? Who's going to fight for the vision? Or if London United are forced to give up on this dragon?
I think that, so there's a 2k gold lead right now, and I'd say that a large portion of that is centered around the top lane. There's also going to be a fairly big discrepancy between our mid laners as well, and you can see that Toppy, obviously pairing up with the jungle, if they get into this river and are able to control the river and put a bit of vision down first, they're going to be absolutely fine. I think that Rate are definitely the favourites to take this Drake, because they're going to have mid lane priority as a sort of by the nature of having secured those 2 kills in the earlier portion of the game. So Anivia gets to push with impunity. There's really nothing to be said. But Yoichi has just gone back. He's going to have package now coming into this one. And we talked about the fact that this is a hard game for the Anivia to team fight around because of the pure engage from London U. And that looks like they're maybe trying to experience that in the bot side of the Rift.
Before the dragon, they want a few kills. Peep has been fishing all game, and now he's the one being fished as Lowfire is going to connect with the heal, getting him into safety. Curtain's Call is available. He has the first shot. He wants to lay it down. And meanwhile, the package is there. Yoshi is just forced away from that position. We were talking about this sort of vision. And the package is used for his own safety. So this is Raid taking complete control of that scenario, even though Noida did a really good job on the bot side to stop him from going to Dragon.
I think this is still good for Rate's Drake possibilities. Peep has to go back to base, but so does Divinus. Both of the supports had to go back, and when you burn Corki package and he's not getting anything proactive from it, that puts you in a much better position. Also, just as these AD carries act in general, Jhin can have his flash blown, have his heal blown, and still have agency in a long-range team fight because of the curtain call. If he's able to sit back, he can sit behind the Baron pits or Dragon pits a little bit further as well, and still be able to pump out that damage, pump out the support for the team that I alluded to in the draft. Now, it is worth mentioning, and I'm going to say it quickly here, that Lowfire actually burned his flash aggressively to try and take down Divinus, but, be that as it may, Divinus lived and there was no kill given over, so the Jhin with no flash, again, going to be a bit of a sitting duck as we pivot up to this top side to see quite what's happened, and it's Arcane Teddy who is, via whatever means they may have been, currently a little bit low on that HP total.
There are a few curious. Oh, as Noided is going to face 2 of them, and there we go. Born this way accepts the challenge. Comes the thunder, comes the lightning, and Noided doesn't care. but the Nightling gets a
Peep.
little bit slower as the ice is going to slow him down. Divinus is the one taking the shots. The fourth one will leave him low, but not low enough. Zed, he knew this was going to happen. He gets the root. He's getting slowed with the Flourish Connect. No!
Ooh.
Everything goes wide, and he's getting a little bit lucky there with the sidestep as well. And he lives to tell the story, but I was not expecting Noida to survive that one.
No, neither was I. He just doubled down. He looked like he got engaged on, but he calls the storm, finds himself doubling down on that fight, gets himself that nice HP total from his ulti, gets the W as well, and the Frenzied Maul with the nice heal there, managing to consistently just manufacture HP seemingly out of nowhere, but finds himself able to live. Now, KZ just went down in the bot lane, but this top side is kicking off as well.
Grand Challenge is going to just flash away. I was expecting a Q, but it's not enough. He's going to use the Q to reconnect the engage. Noidet doesn't have his flash available. As Born this way is going to slow him down, knock him up. Icy Gale with unstoppable force available, but not using it.
Okay, really big plays in the bot lane simultaneously. KZ and Divinus able to come out on top of a bot lane 2 versus 2. This Aphelios here with that completed Gale Force able to have just a mythic difference in the difference between the two ADCs. And that's what leads them to getting these double kills here. So this is how it all starts off. It's Peep that opens up the show and actually gets a double knock up here. But fortunately enough, KZ with this DPS with the Infernum plus Gale Force able to absolutely obliterate Lowfire. Divinus goes down to the Ignite, but it's the flash forward from KZ which finishes off the job, seals the deal, and a double kill for your Aphelios. We were talking about London U hopefully utilizing their bot side and trying to leverage that into an advantageous position. That's something that finally has happened. It didn't really come from Noided necessarily in that instance, but the mid lane had been struggling, top lane struggling as well. It's good to see that on the bot side of the map, London United not without a win condition.
Can I just say that Peep is a beast today with that Nautilus? I've been looking into win rates of the Nautilus players, not only on the NLC but other ERLs, and they're not favorable. Even though it's such a good champion, it's just now working out with all the flavor you have on the bot side. And Peep today, he's just fishing everybody. He's not missing a single Q. It is lovely to see this. Oh, that is nasty.
And we like to see these aggressive looks for Nautilus as well, because I mean, even just last game, right? It was a team that, from the interview themselves, said they were a little bit too hesitant to pull the trigger. And Peep, this game, he's proving that he's not suffering from those same issues. Has been looking for these fights time and time again. And, you know, granted, in that bot lane skirmish, to their own demise, it's worth saying. But nevertheless, that aggressive nature is something that will come and will be very useful for the team later on in the game when they're looking to start these fights and when they're looking to potentially even save people from getting taken down, because I think that from the, or by nature of these two compositions, Rate probably never going to be looking to take 5 versus 5 engagements, so Peep getting his hooks out early, getting those aggressive looks out of his system before he has to play with a little bit more restraint as we go later and later into this game, because they are going to be looking to use Arcane Teddy as a side laner, as that split push tool, and typically when you do that, you don't want to be taking these 4v5 fights on the opposite side of the map.
I find it curious that even though the Guard Drinker got tweaked, let's call it this way, it's still being picked by Fiora on the top side. He favors that sustain, getting additional sustain right after. I think he's missing out on the Hull Breaker. He's not going for the Hull Breaker. He wants that sustain because he knows he has to be in a team fights, specifically because Icy Gale will do it and will be quite helpful as a massive tank and disruptor of the team fight alongside with Volibear. It's like he's a trigger while Peep is a trigger for the other side. I agree with you. Peep is not the one pulling the trigger. Peep is the trigger. I find it wonderful.
The rest of the team, whoever the shot caller on Rate is, he's pulling the trigger. They're just pulling Peep. They're saying, "Peep, go," and then, you know, like a little, just I will find any engage possible.
Dragon is available. It is a mountain. Obviously, you want to get those resists for your Malphite, for your Volibear, alongside with the Rakan, which is a really good engage too, but not as tanky. Born this way, sees the dragon goes down. Wind becomes lightning, and his life becomes really squishy as he's half HP.
Oh, Peep,
forced to
no!
use the ultimate. Peep doesn't want to fish this one. The fish becomes the fish in the end, and the curtain is going to be raised down because he's not allowed to be there, but it's going to be the Herald doing 2 headbutts on 2 turrets. One of them goes down, and it's the T1 opening up the map for Raid.
A little bit a little bit questionable for rate, honestly. London United, they're able to take themselves the dragon. They also secure the kill as well on Peep, who honestly pretty much just sacrifices himself for the good of, I'll say, a Rift Herald second charge. But rate, this isn't how their composition is supposed to be played. Grouping up around dragons and trying to take them, if you're far enough ahead, then great, your comp can try and function like that, but 1k gold as your lead isn't enough of an advantage for you to start being able to take these 5 versus 5s versus an Aphelios versus a Corki. And, you know, they experienced that because they all got to the Drake pit and went, huh, we don't win this, and they all ran away, except for Peep, and, you know, Peep realizes maybe that now engaging isn't the best of instances.
Yes.
So I'm hoping to see adaptation throughout the duration of this game. They get one, they've made the mistake once. Let's see if they can adapt to get more from these situations, because they can just use Arcane Teddy in a side lane, and there's a world where he'd have just taken a tier 2 top lane, and then they get gold via that mana instead. Instead, they don't particularly get anything for that Drake take.
One of the things that I want to point out, yeah, you have Arcane Teddy, who's going to be a beast in the late game, not only because he's Arcane Teddy, but also because he has the Fiora. You have Anivia, which scales a lot, and outside of that, you start to question yourself, what else do they have? On the other side, you have Volibear, who's going to be, in my opinion, is always useful as an engage and disruptor in terms of turrets, but then you have the Corki. His scaling is absurd. Then you look into the Aphelios, it is absurdly scaly. If you get those five items, he's going to be unstoppable. So in terms of scaling, London United have an awesome late game, as Icy Gale will go slowly but surely will get defeated by the true damage.
Now, it's a good time whilst this mid-tier 1 is falling to quickly mention that there's a fight in the mid lane. No, is there? Curtain Call?
Curtain Call, but Divinus is there. Rakan, Bird is the word.
Teddy.
Oh, Arcane Teddy joins the fray! Is the new champion. Arcane Teddy falling back as soon as he sees the teleport, as the missiles are now stacking up. Yoshi with the big one looking for Peep. He hooks himself, and Noided has to let this one go. It doesn't work on turrets. Meanwhile, Toppy is the split pusher Anivia that you never thought you were going to see.
The hero that we didn't know we needed. I don't quite sure know if they want it for the remainder of the game, but it gets them the gold this time round. It's still there. Exactly. They managed to get that bot lane tier 1 turret, and Toppy, recognizing that the TP into the mid lane, for example, wouldn't have netted them too much, and goes for the turret instead. So there is gold that is less conditional, I'll say. There's a 100% chance that he gets that turret. If he TPs into the mid lane, it's not 100% the outcome of the fight. So going for the more certain play, something that I'm quite happy to see. But a good little showcase of quite what the team fight is going to look like if they get long drawn, if they do get extended. Yoichi just stepping forward with absolutely no regard for his own well-being or safety to try and fire a big one is peak Corki gameplay, and I'm all for it. So we'll have to see if that continues later and later into the game.
And I just noticed that it's an Everfrost and Eevee. Yeah, the CC is going to be tremendous, beautiful, but that damage that you need to destroy those tanks, the Malphite, the Volibear as well, and even Rakan, if he gets access to the Mountain Drake, like the second and the third, or even the Soul, it's just not going to be there. Base damage is not bad on Anivia, but he's going for the Seraph's Embrace as well. It's mostly for the sustain and ability heist. Do you reckon that the damage from an Anivia without the Leanders will be enough versus these beefy, these bruisers?
Straight up, no. I think she's going to struggle significantly. So I will look to see how well Toppy can perform, but I think that it's a good mythic to go for because he's going to be struggling to stay alive as well. And this Everfrost prevents the ease of execution of the dive necessarily. Because that Everfrost is going to stunt Noided, it's going to stunt Icy Gale from getting all the way into the backline, and Divinus as well. So if it saves Toppy's life, then it's automatically worth it, because you can have all the damage in the world, but if you get one shot because you can't get yourself to safety, then it doesn't matter.
This is a valuable lesson. Everybody, listen to this. What good is to you if you get all those offensive items if you don't last at least 1 second in the fight? I love it. That's why I play Pantheon Lethality only. No, I'm kidding. The idea is now we have teleport on Arcane Teddy, which means he can push the T2 and still be available for this dragon. The problem is they had no vision, and the dragon goes somewhere, disappears. It's a magic trick. That is a massive rocket. And meanwhile, Icy Gale stops the teleport with Unstoppable Force. He also got some damage from the turret. He has sustain, yes he does, but he's really low. On the other side, you have some sort of grievous wound, so you need to take that into consideration if you want to engage. Born this way will probably be dead this way if he stays around. There you go! Yoshi with the snipe. The volley bear goes wide. Moonlight Vigil is there. And top is the bird. Do you know the bird is the word, but the egg is going down. As Arcane Teddy takes down Icy Gale somehow. And that's a shutdown. And I don't know if the Baron is going to appear for some of these teams. This is just messy.
This is...
Peep!
Peep's gonna die as well. There's no chance he gets out. He has no flash.
Why are you on YouTube while you're recalling?
He's fine, apparently, according to... I was entirely wrong. Yeah, caught window shopping, alt-tabbed. Incredible that he's managing to survive. I think we get ourselves a replay of what happened in the top lane. Obviously, Arcane Teddy. Arcane Teddy, he's got sustain coming through, and Icy Gale just doesn't want to let that happen. Really important riposte. He knows that with no... Okay, with no riposte, he can, or with no seismic shard and no ulti, he can find that gap, close it down. And something that I've wanted to talk about throughout the duration of this game, but I've never had the chance because the teams keep fighting, is Fiora's natural counter is a wall, and how obnoxious it can be to just sit up against a wall so that that Vital can't get procced. You saw right there, Arcane Teddy flashed in between Icy Gale and the wall to make sure that he could proc that final Vital and get the kill. He's been getting hampered by it this entire game, and finally he finds the kill 1 versus 1 in the top side, where he says, "Not today, I am finding this kill, please let me have it," and you know, manages to get in between and procs that 4th Vital.
My question is, with the pickaxe, longsword, and Wooby, are we getting an Hullbreaker 3rd item?
Hullbreaker. It could be. I mean, those are the components. That's what it could build into. You obviously have a couple other options. I think Sterax is one that could be the choice as well, potentially even.
I know you can cook eggs with eggs, but the idea is, are you bringing these eggs so late into the game?
You know what? I'll have to find out. Eggs are breakfast food for a reason, so taking them later on into the day may not be the smartest of moves.
I like it. Put it on your spot and you got it. I love it.
I want to go back to this Anivia build though, because we talked about it having, you know, a slight lack of damage, but he's sort of pivoting from this incredibly defensive build, which has been Zhonya's Everfrost, and you know, we talked about you needed that HP and you need that sustainability. Never mind.
Peep get Divinus, but alongside with all their mobility, he's going to be fine. Neither gets the 4th shot. It's like a tickle in the back, but this allows them to go to the bottom. Can they defend this?
Arcane Teddy is not split pushing for once. He's actually grouped up with the team and is going to be adding a nice portion of DPS to this. TP forced from Icy Gale and they back away. Malphite in a pit is not something you want to stick around for. A reminder that these 5v5s should be fairly London U favored. Yes, Divinus got a little bit chunked out, but if your Rakan can jump in, charm 3-4 members, and even if he does die, that's normally more than worthwhile. So it's a good respect move from Rate to get off the Baron right there. But their composition itself now gets a lot easier to execute because they can send Arcane Teddy to the bot side. They're going to have TP advantage over Icy Gale, who's never going to be able to get to a play. So I think this could be a time where they start sending Yoichi to answer Icy Gale instead, just because wherever the Rate squad go, they're going to be looking to try and find an objective, and Arcane Teddy on the opposite side of the map is going to be that point of pressure that is going to need somebody to answer.
Neither almost getting hooked. He's going to get stunned, gets the additional charge, forced to use the Stormbringer right now. And in 50 seconds, we will see another dragon. This could be the soul for London United, but at this point, United with no flash, no ultimate. It's quite hard to get into inside of the battle unless they get some sort of a pick. Divinus with the quickness. Icy Gale with the unstoppable. I don't know who's going to do what, and I know they don't have a package as well. So this is not a good position for London United to fight for the soul.
I think Arcane Teddy needs to stay top lane here. You know that Yoichi does never want to. He never wants to be a part. Yeah, he never wants to be a part of this top side though. He always wants to be around the group.
Icy Gale is going nowhere. He has the unstoppable force in top. He has a lot of damage apparently. He's only building armor. Divinus gets caught mid-air.
Wow. no package available, right? Yoichi's topside. They can never look to take this
No, he has
fight.
package. He has
Yeah,
package.
but he wasn't with the team. He's not there. He's got
That's a
to get
problem.
all the way from the top side. So really good from Rate to just pull the trigger. They say, okay, if your Corki's not with you, he can have package all he likes, but if he's not ready to team fight with it, what good is it? And this is stemming back to the fact that Icy Gale had to TP up to this Baron that Rate didn't ever try to take. They just wanted to force the TP. They've played this macro so incredibly well. Off of one single cooldown, they've got themselves a dragon, they've got 2 kills, and now they could leverage it into a Baron as well.
That's exactly what they're going to do. I know London United knows what's happening so far. So if they want to fight this one, they have to be faster. But Zoink Zed alone, he's forced to go back. There's no way NFL is going to steal that one. So out of a sudden, Raid are capable of getting the Dragon. They're capable of getting the Baron right now. And this is the perfect moment to finish the Hull Breaker. Okay, the eggs are in place, the breakfast is ready even though it's dinner. But it doesn't matter because you have the perfect split push right now alongside with the Baron buff.
And this is where the Rate composition just explodes tenfold. They have this 1-4, they have the safety net of a Baron to fall back to as well, and they can really leverage Arcane Teddy. Reminder that if there's an objective to be fought for on the opposite side of the map, TP still not available for another minute or so for Icy Gale. It means that London United are going to have to be very careful with their positioning, very careful with how they look to play out this 4v4. And for Rate, they just need to keep this 4-man core alive. As long as he engages, which could be an issue, given the position of all 5 members of the Red Squad right now. As long as they don't get engaged on here, they just need to wait.
What?
Arcane Teddy's going to do work on the bot side, but there's nothing to say that Yoichi can't do it mid.
Moonlight gets the root while the Venus gets the quickness. Meanwhile, the backside, it is Corky getting caught. This could be the turnaround for Wait if you want it. The curtain calls, but on the backside, there we go. Icy Gale with the mountain takes down at least the AD carry. But Arcane Teddy, the carry, the top laner, gets the challenge, and the challenge connects. Only the turret is going to separate it. It's not a triple, it is a double, but alongside with the turret, call that a triple. As they probably can finish this up.
30 minutes in, death timers, 40 seconds plus for the carries right now. Born this way, and Arcane Teddy still alive to dish out the damage to the turrets. And look at the wave clear from the red team. There's nothing there. Icy Gale and Divinus, they've got to do nothing to get this.
It has to be a miracle, and there's no miracle with Arcane Teddy destroying the backline. Another double, making a quadra for this team fight as they secured the turret, they secured the Nexus, and they put themselves in a good spot right now.
6-6 now for Rate. They managed to level up the head-to-head as well versus London U. Rate with this split push composition that it never really felt like got fully underway until the very end game. They got that Baron and then they started to leverage it. That was a 4v5 fight that they still managed to come out on top of. And even after one absolutely massive rocket that we thought was going to like swing the entire nature of how that mid lane played out, it didn't. The power of this Jhin pick that Lowfire has been loving so far, he's able to sit so far back and still support the team with the Kirkham call, really helps them out. It forces Icy Gale to burn Flash plus ulti to get in range to stop the Jhin from, firing off, and then you have no ult for the rest of the team fight, and then the rest of the squad can just absolutely obliterate the backline. Really well played compositionally executed by Rate.
Raid coming back into this game, even though it was Peep starting the game, and then it went a little bit for London, and then at the end it was Raid again. So this is a good game for them, getting 6-6 in the standings, pulling themselves a little bit back up. And I think everybody in the middle of the standings are not allowing to be defeated, which is an interesting night to say the nonetheless. But we have those interviews coming right up, so we're gonna hop into a quick break, and I'll see you soon.